Hello everyone and welcome to MagicGatheringStrat. I'm Binkabi and this will be the top 10 for the multicolored cards in Modern. So this list is impossible to do justice, it's just not possible. It's too many cards, it's too many good cards. You will not agree with my list, you will certainly not agree with the order on my list, and you will be sad that a lot of your favorite cards is not even in it at all. What's making it so difficult is that you have excellent sideboard cards, let's say Slaughter Games. You have excellent mainboard cards, let's just say Ral Zarek, powerful planeswalker. Doesn't see that much play, but certainly a powerful card. Then you have the narrow cards like Goblin Electromancer that just builds a whole deck around them. Which way should you go? Which card should I include? Well, ultimately I included the cards that I think is universally powerful and that sees plenty of play and are cards that I'm always thinking of when I'm facing decks that contains the colors that the multicolored card is. So I won't have any honorable mentions in this list because it's too many. We can have top 100 honorable mentions or something and it will still be too few. So with that said, let's get going to number 10. Ancient Grudge. So we're starting off with a sideboard card right away. The thing with this card is that it sees so much play. It's such a great sideboard card against Affinity and other artifact decks. Now Birthing Pod is gone, but it was decent there. It takes swords, it takes everything. And it has flashback, so even if you get to discard it or mill it, it doesn't matter, you can play it anyway. And you get to use it twice if you can cast it from your hand. The fact that this card alone makes red X decks splash green, a couple of green sources, means it should be on the list. It's just that good. It's good in every format, except maybe when it was in Standard, but Modern, Legacy, Vintage, everything. It's just a really good card. Number 9. Geist of St. Traft. The dreaded hexproof menace from Innistrad. Probably the very card that made people hate hexproof. Then we got Sylvan Caryatid and people were more inclined to think that was a good creature to put hexproof on, but this is just ridiculous. It's the fastest clock that you can produce basically in the format, and it's in colors that generally don't have that and are very capable of making way for it with good removal, counter spells and stuff like that. So getting to attack for 6 on turn 4 with one card, and even if this gets killed or blocked you get 4 damage through. Yeah, I don't think I need to say much more about this card, but I hate to play against it most of the time. It's just horrible. So it's on the list for sure. Number 8. Maelstrom Pulse. This is the only card I think that people will be confused about seeing in the list. But you have to understand what the card does. It does everything. When you're facing a rock deck or Jund or Junk or whatever, or Absan it's called nowadays, when you're looking at your hand and considering what to play, you might have a good card that you really want to play, but you think you should play it because they have a discard spell, probably they're playing black, so you have to play it. If you play a creature, they will have a removal like Terminate or something. Alright, so you don't want to play a creature and you don't want to hold good cards. So what are you left with? Well, non-lands and non-creatures like planeswalkers, like equipment. Maelstrom Pulse takes care of all of that. Doesn't matter what you have. It's good at sweeping tokens. There's nothing the card doesn't do, and it's very cheap. So it's on the list because it's so versatile and so annoying to play against. If you don't respect this card when you're facing a green-black deck, you will regret it big time. Number 7 on the list, Fulminator Mage, a personal favorite of mine. He just does so much. I mean, come on. He destroys lands. That's all you need to know. No, to be fair, I think it's a really good card, and of course it shines in decks like Living End that can recur him. That's just almost broken. But getting to destroy value lands and man lands and stuff is pretty neat, and if you don't want to do that, you have a 2/2. It can always chump block and then get sacrificed to do something, and it's at least a clock if not, and it's pretty cheap, so I just like the card all around. Number 6, Lightning Helix with alternate art. It's just not that much to say about it. It's really cheap, it's really good, it goes to the face, kills almost everything that's relevant, and gives you some life back, which is fantastic when you're facing an aggressive mirror, when you're facing like burn, when you're a bit behind and you need that one extra turn to get things stable, then this will do it. And it's so cheap, it's good with Snapcast Mage. I mean, there's nothing this card won't do for you, basically. That's why it's on the list. Number 5, Lingering Souls. I wanted to have this card higher on the list, but it would have to do on place number 5 because I think it's falling off pretty fast. It has some competition in like Siege Rhino and stuff, which is not on the list, by the way. Another good card for sure, but it's just it's such a competitive environment and such a competitive slot that it's falling off from time to time. But it's still a very powerful card and a really potent threat. And of course it's on the multicolored list because you won't play it for either of the costs, you have to play it for both. Number 4, Kitchen Finks, another personal favorite of mine. I've cast this card so many times and I'm always pleased with it. It gains you a ton of life, which is good. It trades with everything basically, which is good, and it comes back. It's fantastic with Restoration Angel. I mean, it was the card in Birthing Pod you did not want to see, besides the card that actually kills you, of course, but this just gets them so much time, it sticks around again, it's just so good. I could cast Kitchen Finks for days and I would not regret it. Moving on to number 3, Abrupt Decay. It was introduced in Return to Ravnica, and the first part, Can't Be Countered, was in a cycle of cards, and until then I had never really got to use that besides Thrawn the Last Troll. And I just remembered how awkward it was to be sitting there with like a mana leak and be like, yay, I'm gonna thwart your plans. And then I play Thrawn and you're like, oh crap. And this is basically the same. You have your good threat and you have Hold It Off because you wanted to make a few more land drops to have a counterspell up to protect it. But if they have Abrupt Decay, that's just not gonna happen. The soul card that probably keeps Splinter Twin from being too good, they have a real difficult time dealing with Abrupt Decay. They can't do much about that. All the combo pieces cost 3, so this can take them, and they have no real way to disrupt it other than maybe tapping down all your lands, but that's not realistic at all. So this is just really good. Although I have to say, non-land permanent comes up more often than you would like. Inkmoth Nexus, Blinkmoth Nexus, Celestial Colonnades, whatever. This comes up way more often than you would like. So that's a big minus for the card. Number 2, Electrolyze. Now we're talking. I just can't bring myself to put this lower on the list. It's so cheap, it's instant, it's always at least 2 for 1, sometimes 3 for 1, and you often play it at the end step, so that means that the card you get to draw, you have a chance to play, you get to untap. It's fantastic with Snapcast Mage, it goes to the face if you don't have anything going, it smoothens out your draw. I don't really see the downside on this card. I guess they could make your hand a bit clunky because you want to cycle them away, and if your opponent doesn't play small creatures it becomes worse. But overall, if you're playing red and blue, this is a card you should consider. So number 1, and I just have to say before we move to it, this is a card I never understood why people were so high on until I tried it myself, because I didn't think it looked like that powerful of effects. But let's just get to it. My number 1 for multicolored cards in Modern is a Johnny Vengeant, my homeboy. So when I first started playing Modern, I was looking at Living End, and when I couldn't buy those expensive duels, I had to settle for the cheaper ones, which was Sacred Foundry and the cheap, what could it have been, like $10 fetch lands, and then I built a Boros deck instead. A fantastic one with Squadron Hawks, Glory of Warfare, Goblin Assaults, and the Johnny Vengeance alongside Elspeth. But the Johnny Vengeance was always so good. I just couldn't get my head around how good it was because of his multi-purpose activations. Either you can use him as a burn spell that could be recurred if time goes by. So it's an expensive lightning helix, but that's fine. You could use him as a removal spell that sticks around, which is very good. You could tap something, or rather keep something tapped. The first tournament I played in, the first time I got to cast him, he locked down a Phyrexian Obliterator, which was a huge relief for me. Then my opponent played Tenebrous of Corruption and tried to aim it at the Johnny, but unfortunately there was only one legal target for it, and that was his own Phyrexian Obliterator, so yeah. Anyway, the +1 is really good against basically the decks where the -2 is bad. Control decks or combo decks and whatever. And if you ever get to ultimate, you win the game. I got to ultimate this this card in when I was playing in GP Madrid, and I was playing against a John deck with Splash for Treasure Cruise, and when you're pathing a Tarmogoyf and then ultimating a Johnny Vengeant, leaving them with nothing and one card in hand, the feelings, it's just so good. Overall, this card is the most powerful one on the list, in my opinion, and I think he sees way too little play for how good he actually is. And just because of that, I will try to make a few lists including him and showing them off on the YouTube channel. But unfortunately my time is very limited right now, so we will see when that will be, but I will try to take something sweet. Hope you have enjoyed this list. I have artifacts and maybe lands, probably not, because the best lands are the fetch lands, so, and the duels, of course. I don't think there is enough good played lands to make it worthwhile to make a list, but maybe we'll see. But artifact is up next. I thank you for watching, and please leave a comment because I know you have a lot of opinions about my list here. Don't forget to check out the other ones. I've seen that they're pretty popular, and that it feels good. So thanks for watching and have a great evening.